1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Star Wars Reactions, episode 82. We got a fun show planned for you. Welcome back. We've missed you. My name is Aaron Harris. I'm happy to be here, and joining me is the Tebow to my wicket, the David Modest. David, brother, how's it going?
It is going well. I'm ready to react. And once again, you knocked out the perfect comparison. That was right on, buddy. And so I'm ready to react. I'm excited to talk about this episode with you. I've really enjoyed the previous ones we've done and on Vintage Reactions. And so I'm ready to rock and roll, brother.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it too. We're going to have a great episode. I'm really looking forward to it. It is our Vintage Reactions series returning. We are discussing the next episode of the 80s animated series Ewoks, entitled The Tree of Light. Tree of Light. This episode, of course, was released October 12th, 1985.
Man.
1985. What a year. What a year. Let's see, 85, I was...
Almost 6, right?
Almost 6.
Yeah.
Almost 6.
Yeah.
So, yeah, where were we in 85? 85, we were in West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Or we were moving to West Virginia.
Okay.
So
That October 12th is my dad's birthday. He's an October baby. And yeah, October 12th, 85, that was my junior year, 85, 86. So yes, I am older than Aaron. So that's okay. That's okay.
well, yeah, but you also got to realize we got trying to look at the 85 is a big year, I'm scrolling through and I'm looking, I'm like, what were the top songs in October of 85? And I'm sitting there going, I don't know that one. I don't know that one. I don't know that one. And I know a lot of 80s music, but I don't know these.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. I know this one. We built this city
Oh my gosh. On rock
and roll. Oh, here's one. This one I know. Huey Lewis and the News, Power of Love.
Oh my gosh.
Power of Love is a curious thing.
They had so many good hits.
One man weep, another man sing. Oh yeah, great heat. Great song. Let's see. I'm going through it. I'm like, I don't know that one. Don't know that one. It's giving me a whole bunch of songs, and I'm like, how did we go? How do we get to top songs of? I don't know. We're sitting here talking about Ewoks, and next thing you know, we're on Power of Love. Who knows? Carabast.
That's right. Carabast. Here we go.
Carabast. Back to the Ewoks. Ewoks, Tree of Light, October 12th, 1985. Written by Bob Carew and directed by Raymond Jaffalis. This episode, we find out that the Tree of Light is struggling to stay lit. This, of course, is causing chaos throughout the planet and the forests of Endor. To help restore the tree's power, the Ewoks dispatch Weechi, Willie, Tebow, and Paplo. Willie just sounds like an odd name to be amongst that group. But anyway, they are dispatched and tasked with taking the sacred sawdust to the tree, which is about a day's journey from the village. Weechi also is given a magical lantern that will lead them to the tree and keep them safe. In the meantime, King Gornash of the Dulocs wants the Tree of Light to be torn down so that the Night Spirit will rule all of Endor. Going against Chief Chirpa's orders, Wicket and Nisa and Latera follow the other Ewoks into the adventure. Wicket and Nisa end up saving the Tree of Light by getting past King Gornash and the Dulocs and putting the sacred dust on the tree. The original Ewoks get the silver feather for bravery, while Wicket, Nisa, and Latera get in trouble for disobeying, but are still honored with a silver feather for saving the tree. The end. David, why don't you kick us off with your opening thoughts?
My initial reactions were, I enjoyed this episode. I just, any new Star Wars content, really, it is for you and me, because you and I did not watch these back in the mid 80s, as you just heard Aaron and I talking about. So I always enjoy seeing new Star Wars content. I'm not, it's fun. But I didn't like this episode as much as some of the previous ones. And the reason is because there's just a really overused trope in this episode. And it's of young kids, either disobeying their elders or their parents. They get into a bit of trouble, but ultimately they're let off the hook because there was a good outcome. We see this in movies, and we've seen it not just from 1985, but all the way to present day. And I've seen it so much. And, I struggle with that. So while I enjoy seeing new Star Wars content, I like, the different names, and I made sure that Aaron and I had these with Weechi, Willie, Tebow, and Paplu and stuff like that. And I like seeing, different, parts of Endor. Aaron and I have talked about that before. It's like, man, there's a lot of stuff on Endor that we didn't realize from Return of the Jedi. But just overall, and I'll talk more about this. I'll give a little hint, Aaron, in the psychology corner. I will talk more about this issue of, disobeying parents and elders. I'll talk about that. So that really kind of brings it down for me. But at the same time, it really helped generate my psychology corner for tonight. So I have to thank it for that.
Very good. Very good. My initial reactions are actually very closely along the lines of yours, David. Because, it's a different episode for sure. Don't get me wrong. It's still a fun episode. It's full of myth. It's exciting. We have a lot of fun. The Dulocs are always there for a laugh. But it's an 80s show. We have this kind of thing about 80s shows that we talk about regularly, David, where there's this strong moral lesson being taught in these episodes. And there is a moral in this story, but I don't feel, and we'll discuss this a little bit in a few minutes, and you'll cover probably more in your psychology corner, come to find out, but it's not really expounded on the way I feel like it should have been in this episode. So, but I mean, besides that, the Dulocs were hilarious. Wicket and his friends saved the day. I mean, it's a Star Wars story. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And I love the exploration and the continued exploration of the myth around the Ewoks' belief. It was a lot of fun. And from there, we'll launch into our talking points. And this one, actually, I want to start off with is the myth of the Tree of Light and how its health basically determines the life of the planet. Essentially is what we're gathering. The way the Tree of Light goes, the way the forest goes. And we see that, you see that in a lot of stories throughout fantasy, sci-fi, these environmental based stories where you have this, it all comes back and is to this one point, And we got this tree of light, which is basically, it looks like just a giant pine tree that glows. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you nailed it, buddy.
But it's a pine tree that glows. And it basically, you know, is something that the Ewoks are nourishing. And not only is it supposedly keep the forest healthy and protect everything, it wards off evil spirits. So we get that look in the myth behind the story, and ties in. What were your thoughts and on the myth being the expounded upon myth of the Ewoks' beliefs in this episode, David?
Yeah, I thought about, episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and kind of the interplay between the Gungans and the people of Naboo, right, who are not underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and how there's like a symbiotic relationship, right? And they talk about that a bit, and Lucas, talks about this. I struggle a bit, like again, there's you and I've seen this in previous episodes where not Chief Chirpa, but Logray, the what do we call him? The kind of
medicine man,
the spiritual guru there. Logray, hands over a vial of dust, sacred dust, he called it, for Weechi and Willie and Tebow and Paplu to take to nourish the tree. I guess what I took from it is this issue of kind of this interplay between the people of the planet and, kind of this, like you said, this mythological force, and how there's an interplay between both.
Yeah.
And, that, quite honestly, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I didn't put it in talking points, but I'm really glad you did, because, again, just to bring this into, like, say, faith-based stuff, like you'd sit there and ask, well, wait, why does God want Christians to talk to other people about God, right? But you realize it's just like, it's an interplay. It's like God isn't saying, well, I'll just do it all. No, it's like, I want to do this with you. And when I saw Logray hand that sacred dust to those 4 Ewoks, that's what I was thinking about. It's not just this mythological tree. It's a relationship between the inhabitants, in this case, the Ewoks. Obviously, the Dulocs are not wanting to take that up there, but I really liked that part. And there's what I always call it, Aaron, an interaction effect, right? It's the interaction of those, like that mythological, powerful tree, and these persons, these individuals, the Ewoks, who are not all powerful, who are still part of it, versus, well, you have no part in this whole process. So I do like that. I enjoy seeing it.
Very good. Very good. I agree. It's nice seeing it. And Star Wars has always been built on myth and legend, and I like we're seeing myth expanded on in this. I mean, even though I don't believe this is canon, I do. It's nice to see that myth explored, and it's something that, who knows, could come back and show up in a canon somewhere. You never know. But we talked we talked a little bit in both of us did in our initial reactions about the moral of the story and everything, not going, with the disobedience of Wicket and I've just blanked on her name.
Oh no, that's Nisa and Latara.
Nisa and Latara, and them all disobeying. They all disobeyed for different reasons, and I want to explore that a little bit, because what we have here is we have Willie, Weechi, Tebow, and Paplo being tasked with this mission, and they're being sent out. Wicket wants to go, but he's too young.
Mm-hmm.
Nisa and Latara want to go, but they're girls.
Right.
And they're not allowed to go.
Right.
This is a man's mission. So we have 3 people disobeying for 2 completely different reasons. We have Wicket, who just wants to prove that he can hang with the big boys.
Right.
Well, it's kind of the same reason, because then you got Latara and Nisa disobeying because they want to prove they can hang with the big boys. So it's kind of the same reason, but different reasons.
Right.
And I found this quite fascinating, especially seeing this episode, especially looking at some of the things going on today with going on in the world with, there's nothing. I tell my daughters every day, there's nothing they can't accomplish. They can hang with the best of them. Male or female, and they can. If they believe it and they work at it, they can do it. Say I tell my friends' sons the same thing. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. And that's instead of encouraging. I'm losing my train of thought here in this, trying to get to a point, and I just steered off on a curve that got me lost. But
yeah, no, you go. Okay. I mean, I can help too.
No, go ahead.
Well, I love what you're saying and what you're setting up. It's I think I really, like you said, it's interesting to see a cartoon from '85 and Chief Chirpa talking to, Latara and Nisa and saying, no, it's for these men to do. It's for the grown boys or adolescents or young men that these Ewoks are. I wouldn't necessarily send Willie out there. He's not impressive. Gets tired, wants to sit, gets scared, all that kind of stuff. But I think for me, what to back up what you're saying, when I initially started being a psychologist, I worked with Vietnam vets, and all the Vietnam vets I've worked with are men, right? We know in the 60s and 70s, that's who went to Vietnam, and those are the 70 now 80-year-old men. I've lost a number of the Vietnam vets that I worked with to age, and I'm saying this to you to back up what you said a minute ago about your 2 daughters, and I think about my daughter, and it's as the years passed, Aaron, and I've shared this a bit on the show before. I started, after the Iraq War in 2003, when that started, we sent women over to Iraq and Afghanistan, and so then when some of those individuals came back, I was working with these women, and because they can get traumatized just like the men that have been in, and I looked at some of these women, and I'm thankful for all military men and women. Thank you for doing the very thing I don't want to do. Of course, they're thankful that we're doing the things we're doing, but I'm telling you, Aaron, and I told these women who I have the utmost respect for, they could whoop my butt, man. I mean, in terms of, their strength, they're younger than me. How much weight they could carry. I can just visualize them, trucking, through, Iraq, Afghanistan. They're just, 2 places I don't want to be ever. And just love that they contributed. I feel bad for the men and women I work with who are traumatized, but, I'm going to work with them and help them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these women are every bit the physical specimen that a bunch of men are. So yeah, obviously there's some men who physically can't do that. They can't do military stuff, and there's some women who can't. They're just men and women who aren't strong enough to do it. But if you're strong enough to do it, have at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is that 80s. We weren't quite in the, it was the 80s, right, buddy?
Yeah.
And there were still those kind of, different expectations of males and females. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and it definitely shows in this episode what the different expectations are, and it definitely in typical Star Wars fashion breaks the mold by having at the end having Wicket and Nisa save the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So not only did Wicket, who was told he was too small to be there, too young to be there, and Nisa, who was told she couldn't do it because she's a girl, both of them end up saving the day. And it definitely helped. It's something that they definitely, it was awesome to see them show, but I honestly feel they could have done it a different way. Don't ask me how, because I'm not a writer. I have, it just feels like could have been done different, because here we have, and this goes right into your psychology corner.
Yeah.
And with the fact that we have 3 children being blatantly disobeying orders and disobeying their elders and not facing any consequences for it.
Right. There's
Granted, they ended up helping and saving the day, but two wrong, a right doesn't fix the wrong. It very easily could have gone a completely different direction. And there are consequences to actions, and that's, honestly, that's one thing that one thing that today's society has forgotten is there are consequences for actions. It's not, and we need more consequences for actions, honestly. Things are getting a little out of hand, but this kind of just missed that. I don't know. To me, it missed that drum beat. It set everything up, the pa pa pa, and they missed the pa.
Yeah.
And what are you? I don't want you to jump into your psychology corner early, but
no, I've got a bit, and this can be in talking points, and then you and I can do final thoughts, and then I can jump into psychology. But I would say this, piggybacking off what you said, and the bop 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 bop, and really getting it is, it's interesting. You have Wicket trailing behind, and then, the 4 Ewoks tasked with the sacred dust, but they're also, they drop the lantern, and I remember seeing it rolling down that bridge, and then Wicket grabs it, and I struggle with that, because again, it's what we're talking about. Well, if he's not there, then the whole mission fails. Well, prior to that, because he's there, of course, Willie gets scared, and they're all scared and edgy, which I'm glad they showed that. But maybe they're not running into each other on the bridge and dropping the lantern. The other one is when they're in that maze, and the Dulocs are in there, and of course, like you said, they're always there for a good laugh. Latara and Nisa run around, and the 2 Dulocs end up stuck in that. I meant to write down the name of the ooze on there. I was like, there's a Star Wars trivia question. What is the name of that sticky rope that the Dulocs have in this episode? But because they kind of move around and jump, those 2 get stuck in that. It's kind of like, oh, because you're there, the Dulocs are foiled. And again, it's, again, I'll talk about this a little bit more in the psychology corner, but you're giving examples of, oh, wow, it's good that they were there. And yes and no, right? And I want to make sure I emphasize that. To a certain degree, yes, certain degree, no. And like I said, we can emphasize a little bit more in the psychology corner and explain that. So I'll just leave that hanging out there.
And the answer to your trivia question is Genga Sap.
Oh, that is so big time trivia.
Genga Sap, a sticky net covered in Genga Sap. GANGASAP. Genga Sap.
Yeah, Dan needs to use that in his Coffee with Kenobi Star Wars trivia that he does once a month.
There you
That
go.
would stump everybody, but there you go.
Yeah, and I was sitting here thinking while you were talking, and not about Genghis Sap, of course, but we're sitting here and we're talking about Wicket, Nisa Latera, and basically breaking away and doing what they weren't supposed to. But in a matter of speaking, didn't Luke Skywalker do that as well?
Right. You mean like an Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't do it in A New Hope because he wanted to go to the Tashi station and pick up some power converters, but he didn't. He obeyed. He obeyed Uncle Owen and took care of the droids. And fortunately, R2 ran away, and he had to go save R2 and miss the massacre. But he obeyed. But then you get Empire Strikes Back. No, Luke, stay. Your training's not complete. No, I've learned enough. I'm going to save my friends. So we have Luke pretty much doing the same thing. And his didn't turn out as well. So, and I think the reason I don't have an issue with it happening in Empires is because there were consequences. He lost his hand. He lost Han. The rebellions were on the run. It ends in a bad place.
Right. And again, A New Hope from episode 4 is almost squashed out, and that's what Yoda and Ben know. They're too old for that kind of stuff, right? That's what they're saying. They need him, and to be fully prepared to go against the top-notch baddies, you got to be ready, and he wasn't. And he got it handed to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, anything else you wanted to touch on about Tree of Light before we go into closing thoughts?
No, I feel good about it, buddy.
All right. Well, let's one more thing I do want to talk, and the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I got it playing in the background, and I just glanced at the screen and saw it. The floating trees. I'm sorry. To me, that was the best part of the episode.
That is so. Yeah.
So on the mission, and if you haven't watched the episode, go watch the episode. These are good episodes. You have to watch them at least once so you can say you have been exposed to Ewoks. But this particular episode, we have the floating trees that they have to cross. Literally, they are trees with their root systems hanging in midair in the clouds. So you got Cloud City, a city in the clouds. This is a forest in the clouds. And the trees basically float wherever they want to, like a cloud.
Yeah. And
they use a tree like a rowboat.
Right.
And if that wasn't funny enough, you have the Dulocs chasing them on a fleet of trees. I'm sorry, I saw this, and all I could think of was that scene in Moana when her and Maui are on that boat, and that big pirate boat with the little munchkin pirates. I can't think of what they're called. Come chasing after them, and I'm sitting there going, "This is this is hysterical," because it literally was just like 1 versus like 20 in that scene. And it was good. I that, to me, that was the best part of the episode.
I'll just add this. I was thinking about the Lord of the Rings and how J.R.R. Tolkien used trees. Weren't they called Ents? I think they're called Ents. And that's what I kind of thought about. Like, I just wondered if they kind of said, well, they watched it and thought, what could we do with trees? And we're calling this the Tree of Light. And so they just had more fun with it. But that's what I thought about trees doing, things that we wouldn't normally think of, kind of like, what you see in the Lord of the Rings movies, and now here they can do pretty crazy things. They're not boring, just stuck in the ground. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, all right. Well, let's go into final thoughts, David. Do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah. As I said in my initial reactions, I enjoyed the episode. I enjoy new Star Wars content. And like Aaron said, we had floating trees. There you go. But I didn't like it as much as the episodes before it and the morals within those. And again, Aaron and I have talked quite a bit about how much we do enjoy the moral teachings in this series. But this episode, I would say, is not helpful, in my opinion, in teaching, a solid moral lesson. And I hope, again, when I follow up in the psychology corner, to kind of help with that and give a solid moral lesson.
Very good. Very good. Pretty much I feel the same way. With the 80 shows, you expect that moral lesson, and we got one in this episode to a certain extent. But besides that, overall, it was still a fun episode. The Dulocks are always great for a laugh. Wicket is always Wicket and Lisa saving the day. Expected, but it was good. The floating trees were awesome. The Genghis sap net, those guys were just funny. I mean, it was good, and it's fun exploring the myths of the Ewoks, and their beliefs, because they are different, and I like that. It's fun to explore those things. So, definitely, like David said, this isn't my favorite episode that we've had of the Ewoks. It's definitely not my favorite, but it was still a good episode, and definitely worth watching. So definitely want to take time and do that. So, and of course, we want to know what you think of this episode, The Tree of Light. You can always reach out to us on social media at SW Reactions on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Pinterest. Or, of course, you can hit us up on Twitter at SW Reactions Pod, or email us show@StarWarsReactions.com. David, Psychology Corner.
Absolutely, my friend. Yeah, this episode really set up, this Psychology Corner. It was a no-brainer, and it really is on behaviorism 101, and rewarding good behavior and consequencing bad or poor behavior. So I very much wanted to do, a Psychology Corner based on Wicket, Nisa, and Latara, basically not getting in trouble for disobeying Chief Chirpa, and really entering, dangerous territory out there, putting their lives at risk. We don't want that for young children, for adolescents, etc. So, okay. So earlier, I talked about the overused trope in this episode. That is, kids disobeying their parents and not ending up in trouble because everything worked out in the end, right? We've all seen this trope. We've all seen it in movies, not just 80s cartoons, but 80s movies and 90s, 2000, and so on and so forth. We see it in TV shows all the time, and I've talked about that before as well. So in psychology, okay, if we right, we're in the psychology corner, so we better talk about psychology here. We call this reinforcing bad behavior. And I want to say this, as parents, and I've said this before, and I've said it on previous episodes, we can accidentally or inadvertently reinforce, poor behaviors. If you're a mom and a dad out there listening to this, you've done this. I've done this. My wife and I, we've done it. Every parent's done it. And I don't mean on purpose. It's inadvertent or accidental. An example I would give is this, and Aaron, you can say if you and your wife have dealt with this, but my wife and I, we have two kids who are, 18 and 15 now, but when they were little, periodically they would do something that was not good. Like I think about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of maybe, saying a kind of like not a really horrible swear word, but a swear word or something like that. And my wife and I would purposely cover our mouths or our faces to not see our son or daughter laughing. Because if your son or daughter sees you laughing, you're inadvertently, it reinforced. They're like, oh, mom and dad like it. They laugh. Right? Guilty, right? We've done that, and we've all done it. And my parents did it. And like I said, I've done it. And I don't want anybody out there to feel bad. It's just we've all done this and accidentally reinforced, bad behaviors. So in this episode, right, there's something different though. Chief Chirpa, he has told them not to do this. He said that, and they, they go from saying, and at the very end of the episode, this was interesting. I was looking at the timestamp towards the end, and I was like, well, wait, how are they going to wrap this up? Because they're sitting over there on the bench in trouble, and Chief Chirpa goes, he says that their behaviors were, quote unquote, I think I got this right, inexcusable. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I had the closed captioning on. And so he goes from that, and I'm like, wait, there's only a minute 20. Wait, there's a minute left. Oh my gosh. What? All of a sudden he's like, but considering how everything turned out, like Aaron mentioned that the tree of life, light was saved, he rewards them with a silver feather as well. And that's not accidentally reinforcing bad behaviors that Aaron and I have told you we've done. Again, all parents, we've done this. It's purposely reinforcing poor behaviors. And, we don't want to reward poor or bad behaviors. That's quite common in our culture. You heard Aaron allude to it a few minutes ago that, quite frankly, there's not enough consequences for a lot of poor behaviors. And I, in the show notes here, and Aaron knows this, I want to talk a little bit. We particularly see this on TV, and some examples that I think about. And the first one I'm going to give Aaron is from a TV show that's not on anymore. Of course, I don't think it's on anymore. I don't watch a whole lot. I'm on Disney Plus watching Ewoks and Star Wars, the stuff that Aaron, some stuff good moral. I'm just not watching these shows. But I think our listeners, Aaron, will remember this TV show, and it was called Jersey Shore. And I remember this show, like I'm proud to say I never watched the full episode start to finish, but periodically, if you're flipping through, I'd see it on there, and you'd see these young males and females, and I don't care, it can be East Coast, West Coast, North, South, it doesn't matter to me, but they're showing young people, they're drinking, they're getting into arguments, the females, the males, you see them puking over the, side of a, wall or something because they've been drinking so much, and they're reinforced because those young people were paid a lot of money to act in ways that Aaron and I, and if you're a parent, you cannot have your kid doing this, because if they're in trouble with drunk driving or disorderly conduct, when you throw up in public or public urination, guess who gets the phone call? Aaron and his wife and me and my wife. Mm-hmm. Hey, come get your son or daughter. They're not on Jersey Shore being paid to act like this. You get to pay Dave Motters the fine, disorderly conduct, public urination, all that, and we hold you responsible. And that's a tough thing when culture shows that and rewards that. And if you're a young person, you're looking at your parent going, but it's okay for them. How much, Mom, Dad, how much do they get paid to be out? I don't even want to check and see how much they were paid to do that show over how many seasons. A more current one, Aaron, and I just say this to listeners, and again, I have never, ever watched this show. I've saw clips. I don't watch it. I will not watch it. From a full episode start to finish, is the Kardashians. Here's a TV show where you see a lot of drama, yelling, divorce. I don't even know, what they're doing parenting wise. I don't even know if I want to see it. I remember at one point, and Aaron will probably remember this, I think Kim Kardashian, and this wasn't, I don't even know if this was on the show, but I remember at one point Kim Kardashian, right during the middle of COVID, when people are dying and our country's in an upheaval, she had her 40th birthday, and it was on some tropical island. I don't know if it was out in Tahiti, out in the Pacific, if it was down here in the Caribbean, closer to where Aaron and I live. But I remember people saying, these people are tone deaf. You don't get it. None of you, you're celebrating while our country's suffering, and shutdowns, people losing their jobs, etc. But it's they don't get it, and that's where Aaron and I know this, that I think about this bumper sticker. You don't see it a whole lot, but I told my kids, I said, look at that bumper sticker right there. It says, what is it? What did it say? What's popular isn't always right, and what's right isn't always popular. And I love that bumper sticker. And so I just, that and reinforcing good behaviors, consequencing bad behaviors. But, just like Aaron said a few minutes ago, we have a twofold issue. One, we don't, we need people who do things that are wrong. If they hurt other people, steal, etc., they need to be consequenced more. And just like I'm saying here, we don't want to reward people for doing bad behaviors. Well, they need to be consequenced, let alone rewarded. Very confusing messages to young people, and I don't want that. Not on developing brains. Again, here's the developmental psychologist in me coming out. We want clear messages to kids. I'm not talking about brainwashing kids or, you've got to believe this or that or whatever, but I'm talking solid behaviorism 101, B.F. Skinner at Harvard, the famous psychologist there. Let's reward good behaviors. Let's do a better job of it. Let's consequence poor behaviors. And in this episode, they don't do that, and that's a mixed message in this episode. And I just kind of end my notes with, I don't want to see that as a psychologist or as a parent or as a member of my particular community. I want it more clear cut. Again, not dogmatic, not brainwashing, but let's do some behaviorism 101. Consequence poor behaviors, and let's reward good behaviors. So there you go, buddy.
Very good. Very good. Awesome. Awesome follow-up to that episode. It definitely fit right in.
Yeah.
So, David, if somebody wants to ask you questions about your Psychology Corner or about talk Star Wars in general, how would somebody go about doing that?
Absolutely. 3 different ways. First one would be Twitter. That's been the best way to do it, where I do most of my likes and comments and retweets. That is David _Modders, Modders. Instagram, just put my name in, David Modders. And what else? You can do email. It's for a longer form. That would be david@starwarsreactions.com.
Very good. Very good. And if you want to talk Star Wars with me, the very best way to do that is Twitter @TAHarris121079. Or, of course, you can always email me, Aaron@starwarsreactions.com. Well, David, before we go into our Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week, I want you, do you realize what we were doing 5 years ago today?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. So wait, okay. Well, it'd be 5 years ago, 2007. Oh, we were at Celebration.
5 years ago today, we're recording this April 14th, 2022. 4 years ago today, 5 years ago today, would have been April 14th, 2017. We were on day 2 of Star Wars Celebration in Orlando. And the reason that came to mind is because my Facebook just chimed with telling me to check out my memories for the day. Mm-hmm. And there is this awesome picture of you, me, and a guy in a Lego Stormtrooper cosplay.
Yes.
So, oh, yes.
I remember that. I remember taking that picture. Yes.
Yes. Love it. So, yes. So 5 years since we were at Celebration, and hopefully it won't be another 5 before we get to go back. So,
yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm excited for everybody going to Anaheim. I wish you and I were going to be there. I'm going to be watching, online like I have for Star Wars Celebration Chicago, and watch all the big panels, and we'll enjoy that. And hopefully, right, Aaron, it will return back here to the East Coast. And if it's in Orlando, I'm sure you and I'll be there, and and having a great time at one over here. So I think they'll keep going back and forth. I hope.
Yep, it will be nice. We'll find out, hopefully. So let's close this out the same way we always do with our dad joke of the week.
Nice.
Are you ready for this, David?
I was born ready.
So say, is anyone ever really ready for this?
No, not really.
I didn't think so. All right, here we go. So, David, have you heard about the new gluten-free Wookiee cookies?
No, I have not heard about the new gluten-free Wookiee cookies.
I hear they're a little chewy.
Oh my! Brutal.
Sounds like the chicken I made the other night. It was a little chewy. Anyway.
Carabas.
Carabas. All right. Well, David, my friend, this has been blast as always.
Absolutely. Love recording with you, buddy, and so glad that we can get together and do this and just, talk Star Wars, and hopefully people enjoy it, and hopefully it does bring some joy to their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we want to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with us and joining us for this episode. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love y'all. We pray for y'all. Y'all are the best. Take care. Be kind to someone. It'll change your life. Just make it a goal. Be kind to one person a day, and you'll just start. It'll change your world. So have a great, great night. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.